Okay, guys, in this question, we are going to take a look at computing composition and determining the domain. And as you can see, we want to do it in both ways. We want to do f of g of x and also g of f of x. So let's start with that. Okay, so first, the notation. What does this mean? So we are doing a composition of f and g, but in a specific order. So we're plugging in here g of x in for f of x. Okay. So if you're doing that, here's what you would want to do. You want to start with the outside function and write it like this. So instead of x, I'm going to write a box. So f of a box equals 1 over square root, and then you put the box plus 4. Okay, and then what you want is you want to plug that g of x for the box, so inside the box. So what will happen? So this is what is going to be f of g of x. So you're plugging g of x, which is 3x right here. You are plugging it in here in the box, and so you're going to get 1 over square root of 3x plus 4. So we're going to talk about the domain in a little bit, but first let's do the other way. So we're going to also do g of f of x. So this is where we are substituting f of x in for x in g of x. Okay, so here I'm going to start with the outside function. I'm going to write that g of a box is equal to 3 times that box, right? So now we want to take the f of x, which is right here, and we want to plug it into G, right? So we're going to plug it over here and then plug it over here. So let's go ahead and do that. So G of f of x is going to be 3. And then we, instead of the box, we are putting what f of x is. Now, if you want to, you can multiply 3 times the numerator, because that's how we multiply a fraction by a number. We just multiply the top. So 3 times 1 is 3. And then that's divided by x plus 4. So now we found the two compositions. Now we want to know the domain. Okay, so when you do the domain of the composition, the first thing you got to do is look at the inside function and find the domain of it. Okay, so you're looking at g of x, but g of x is a polynomial, so it's like 3x. It doesn't have any division by 0 problems or square root. So domain of g of x would be all real numbers from negative infinity to positive infinity. So here we don't have to worry about anything. But when it comes to f of g of x, that's your next step. Like, what about the composition itself? What is the domain of it? Well, we got two problems here. Number one, we got the square root. And number two, we got a fraction. So we got to deal with both. Let's do the square root. So in the square root, what you do is you look under the root, whatever is under the root, and you make that greater than or equal to 0. So 3x plus 4 greater than or equal to 0. You want to solve that for x. So to solve, we're going to subtract both sides 4. So we're going to get 3x greater than or equal to negative 4, because over here that's going to cancel. And then we're going to also divide both sides by 3. So that gives us x greater than or equal to negative 4/3. Now, how do we write that in interval notation? So if you were to draw this, well, let's say negative 4/3 is somewhere over here, but you are greater than that. So that means that your region is going to start at negative 4/3 and go all the way up into positive infinity. So your domain is going to be, at least for now, this is what we got, is negative 4/3 to infinity. But there is a problem here, and the problem is that that square root was actually on the bottom. Generally speaking, if the square root was on the top, then we wouldn't have to worry about it being 0, because square root of 0 is 0, which is fine. But when it's on the bottom, that's a problem, because you can't divide by 0. So 0 itself, actually, when 3x plus 4 equals 0, is not good, because you're going to be dividing by 0. Again, that's not good. So in this particular case, we have to exclude negative 4/3, because we do not want to divide by 0. So actually, we're not going to include it. So this is going to be parentheses. Okay. Now, let's look at the g of f of x domain. So what do we have to worry about? First, we have to look at the domain of f of x. Well, the domain of f of x has the square root. And again, it's on the bottom. So you already understand that x plus 4 should be greater than 0. It cannot be greater than or equal to because it's on the bottom. So again, if the square root wasn't on the bottom, you would put it like that. But because it is, that's a problem. You can't divide by 0, so then it has to be strict. So now we're just going to subtract 4 from both sides. So that gives us x greater than negative 4. And in interval notation, that would be negative 4 to positive infinity. And then when you apply g of f of x, it just basically became the same thing. It's just a 3 on the top. That's not going to change the domain. Okay, so let's see if we can fill this out. So first, f of g of x is 1 over square root of 3x plus 4. And then we said that that's negative 4/3 to positive infinity. And then over here, we said that was 3 over square root of x plus 4. And then we said that that's negative 4 to positive infinity.